what would be Arcturus's sort of grand mission? Eventually you move beyond disease and you get to like optimizing people, even like a new type of human. Could there be a Cambrian explosion of different types of humans? How does it get cultured? Like what does that factory look like?
That's again well understood.
And not by me. Would Arcturus ever put its cash in Bitcoin?
That's a fun question.
These questions answered and more in this exclusive conversation with Joseph Payne, the CEO of Artcurus Therapeutics. Arcturus has created multiple mRNA therapeutics and vaccine programs for things like coronavirus, the flu, and cystic fibrosis. They have a ton of patents for delivery systems to certain cell types, and on a technology that lets the mRNA self-replicate inside your body, doing away with multi-dose vaccines. I first heard about Arcturus when I heard Cathie Wood speak about being early investors. Don't get fooled into thinking Arcturus's technology isn't as good as Pfizer or Moderna just because they weren't first to market. Arcturus's tech is actually next gen mRNA. Joe explains all this stuff to me in terms even I can understand. And Arcturus is down right now. Could be a sweet deal if what Joe tells me about this entire sector comes true. I also got his predictions for some far future speculative stuff. This is a great episode. Also, guys, I've been sleeping on this mattress from 8 Sleep, and according to the data, my sleep has improved 15%. This mattress uses AI to adapt as you sleep to dial you into a deeper slumber than you otherwise could have achieved. If you're not laying on an 8 Sleep Pod Pro, what are you even doing with a third of your life? Use code Emmett Short, you get an extra $100 off the mattress or just the cover, which has all the sensors and the cooling tech in it. And you could pay for it with a debit card from crypto.com, $25 just for signing up. It reimburses you 100% for Netflix, Spotify, and Amazon Prime, depending on the level you choose. Their app is solid. It makes spending your crypto winnings way more accessible. Check out my code for that in the show notes as well. Okay, now enjoy this episode with Arcturus CEO, Joseph Payne. Joe, thank you. Thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Emmett, it's good to be with you. This should be fun.
My viewers will definitely appreciate it. A lot of people that watch me are into biotech and just futurism in general. I think there's a lot of exciting things in biotech, and it doesn't get enough attention. So this is awesome. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, of course.
So, okay, I just want to set the stage a little bit because, so I'm a stand-up comic and I'm just kind of a futurism fanboy. I don't have a degree in medicine or biology. I have not worked in biotech. I'm just a dude on YouTube. But I am a futurism nerd, and so I might surprise you with some of my knowledge and then just immediately astonish you with a idiotic question.
Fantastic.
Okay, good. And my goal is to sort of get the lay of the land for the layperson because, and the process and the inner workings of the tech in sort of layman's terms, because I feel like before people can really invest in something, they need to understand it. Yeah. And so that's kind of my goal for this. And, but before we get into the nitty gritty, and I do want to ask you some kind of fun, speculative sci-fi questions at the end, but I would actually first love to know just a little bit more about you. I know you're a CEO and a founder of this company. So I was hoping to get some insight into your inspiration for, starting the company, and maybe some war stories from the early startup days.
Sure. So I'm a scientist by training, but I've always been an entrepreneur. I've always wanted to set up my own company, and for years it was just very difficult to find the right idea, the right people, the right timing. And then eventually all the stars lined up in 2013, I guess 8 years ago, when myself and the co-founder of Arcturus, his name is Pat Chivakula, we thought it was an appropriate time to quit our jobs and set up a new company and pursue opportunities around this really exciting new field of RNA medicines. And these RNA molecules are very exciting for not only scientists, but in the field of medicine. If you can get this RNA molecule to where it needs to be safely and effectively, then it'll revolutionize the entire pharmaceutical industry. So
Yeah.
it's an exciting area. We had a lot of experience in pharma, big pharma. I came out of Merck and Bristol Myers Squibb, and then a Japanese conglomerate called Nitto.
So
And
is
then,
that what you were doing? Were you working on mRNA before you start as a science, like doing research before starting
yeah,
this?
specifically on the delivery of these molecules. These RNA molecules are exciting, and everyone's now a heck of a lot more familiar with them now that a lot of people listening to this have been vaccinated with a messenger RNA molecule. But what people may not appreciate is that these RNA molecules by themselves are actually kind of useless because saliva destroys them in seconds. The blood destroys them in seconds. So these fantastic, beautiful, very impactful molecules need to get inside of a cell and be delivered there effectively in order to capture their value. And so that was an area of expertise, is these lipid mediated nanoparticle delivery technologies, these cool little spheres of lipids that can transport these mRNA molecules to where they need to be, the right organ, the right cell, the right tissue, and not just getting into these cells, but just designing them and engineering them to break out of the endosome and release this valuable RNA molecule inside the cell where it needs to be. And that's
Did you
kind of
g-
the science behind it.
Right. So did you guys have trouble in the early startup days? Like, how was that process trying to explain this to people? I mean, you're probably explaining it to, people that are pretty savvy, but, how was that in the early days of this? Was it difficult?
Well, as an entrepreneur, one of the first things I learned is that no one understood what we were doing. So when in the very first pitches as a very young entrepreneur, I we looked at the language that we were saying and we put it into these wonderful sites on the internet, and we found that the most of all the words that I was saying, the one that was most familiar to an average person was the word liver that came out of the organ. And only 40% of the people even understood what that was. So that means,
Liver?
yeah. So maybe on this program, maybe it's a more sophisticated, tech savvy audience, but uh, the average layperson doesn't understand much of science whatsoever. So we had to hone the message and change it dramatically about, RNA is now common, but 5, 6 years ago, people didn't even know what RNA was. But this
Yeah.
con, so we had to start speaking in terms that were more common, like DNA. People were familiar with that. It's permanent. You get it from your mom and your dad, but then DNA gets converted to RNA, and RNA is the workhorse. That's what makes everything in your body. So it's a very exciting therapeutic molecule. So how do we get this RNA to where it needs to be? And then we transition into the story about safe and effective delivery technologies. And we got better at it, but we eventually got our money. We scratched away and raised 1.3 million bucks in our seed round. And
At
then
this
we
point, how many people were at the company?
two,
Oh,
just
wow. Yeah.
had me and Pad, and then we took that money and we discovered a delivery technology called Lunar, Lunar, and showed that it worked in in mice and in primates, and then that was a key set of data that invited Johnson and Johnson to partner with us to go after hepatitis B. Another large Japanese pharma company called Takeda to partner with us for NASH. And then we got another partnership with a rare disease company called Ultragenics, and those validating partnerships allowed us to raise more money. Um, and now we've raised over, I don't know, $500 million. And we're a publicly traded company. I have 150 employees, and we've got exciting franchises. We're a clinical stage messenger RNA vaccines and medicines company. We have a COVID-19 vaccine that people know us for now, in addition to liver and lung programs. And just an exciting platform and a pipeline of therapeutics that are definitely exciting for this new field of mRNA.
Right. Yeah. And so now you guys are a big company. And so with a lot of the like exciting big companies, I mean, I'm curious, what is your, I mean, curing disease, obviously, but what would be Arcturus's sort of grand mission? You know, the analogy of like, you know, SpaceX is trying to make life multiplanetary. Like what would be
Yeah.
Arcturus's sort of grand mission?
Well, it's enabling the power of messenger RNA molecules. Right now, can clearly see the power they've had in the vaccine space, but that's a very simple injection in the arm, just a little tiny needle, and that manually delivers the mRNA into the muscle cells right in the local environment there. Those muscle cells are called myocytes, and so you just inject a solution of these lipid-mediated nanoparticle messenger RNA molecules, and they can get inside those cells and do what they do very well. But what's far more challenging now is, how do you get mRNA to the liver? You have to inject it through an intravenous solution, or an intravenous route of administration through an IV solution. And then those particles have to somehow survive and find the liver, and not just find the liver, but get to a specific cell type called hepatocytes. And then not just get into those hepatocytes, but they have to break out of the endosome that they're trapped once they enter these
At the right
cells.
time. Yeah.
They have to get out. Like, just a beautiful set of engineering and innovative design to get these mRNA molecules. But why it's really exciting is, you know, these companies, these mRNA companies, and Arcturus is in this community, are the first companies to literally build life in a human being. So if you look at all of the pharmaceutical industry, they're in the business of suppressing disease, knocking down, inhibiting,
Right.
beta
Yes.
blockers, cholesterol blockers, pain blockers. They're dealing with the downstream effects of disease, and they're trying to suppress it and reduce it. And all pharmaceuticals are in the business of killing, blocking, shunting,
Right.
inhibiting. And mRNA is completely different. We're in the business of building something that you need. So if you're missing something, we talked about DNA earlier, but if you're missing something out of your DNA, you can blame your mom or your dad for it. But you're sitting there with a dysfunctional protein or something that's missing. And mRNA comes in and builds you a new one.
Yeah. Instead of just like plugging the hole in the boat,
Yeah,
you're like, you know, fixing the boat completely,
yeah.
like refinishing it. And yeah.
It's like a total normal boat. Instead of
Right.
a functional boat with a bunch of holes in it, you get a new boat.
Yeah.
And it's totally new, fresh, new, normal boat. So
Yeah.
this concept of building life in a human being is extraordinarily exciting. If this concept works, the mRNA community of companies is going to transform the pharmaceutical industry, just like Uber did to taxi cabs,
This
right?
is why, yeah.
It transforms it.
And this is why I was asking about the grand mission, because to me that's like incredibly exciting. And but I think, you know, to some people get you know, some people don't even want to take vaccines, but like some people, when you talk about, I mean, designer people, because eventually you move beyond disease and you get to like optimizing people, you know,
Yeah.
athletes or scientists, or, you know, let's, this mRNA shot helps you do better on your SATs, you know, like,
Wow.
I don't know how far away that's going to be, but,
That's a very exciting field. The first wave of mRNA medicines is going to be replacing what's missing, and
right.
replacing or building either a missing protein or a dysfunctional protein or something like that. But what you're talking about is supraphysiological proteins, meaning there's proteins that you and I already have that are good. They're great. Why not get more of it? And what
Right.
happens? Get more of it, then you're faster, stronger, better. simple, yeah, and then cosmetic industry, right?
Yeah, I
Uh,
just started taking peptides. Ipamorelin and CJC are supposed to help your human growth hormone. So I'm already trying to like optimize myself, and there's a whole industry that's surrounded around doing that. But this technology, this is like much more powerful.
yeah, yes, absolutely. You can make whatever you want with messenger RNA, and that's what's very intriguing. But the challenge for the field, to be absolutely clear, everybody, messenger RNA has been around for decades, but how do you get this beautiful, long, big, highly charged, highly negatively charged molecule? How do you get this into the right cell at the
Right.
right time? And there's 200 different cell types in the body, and Arcturus knows how to get messenger RNA into three of them: the ciliated bronchial epithelial cells through inhalation, so you can inhale the messenger RNA and get into a very valuable cell type called ciliated bronchial epithelial cells. A lot of great diseases we can tackle there with limited competition. We're also very good at intravenous applications of messenger RNA and getting the messenger RNA into hepatocytes of the liver. There's dozens of diseases that we can potentially treat there. And so exciting franchise opportunity there. And then myocytes in the arm with our vaccine franchise. After COVID, there's the flu vaccine and many other interesting vaccines that we can go after with just a simple injection in the arm and have those myocytes make some proteins. So we're in the business of making
Delivery.
protein. Yeah, these mRNA molecules make stuff, right? They make proteins.
Yeah.
So people say, well, why don't you make the stuff? Why don't you make the proteins in a
Yeah.
factory and then inject it into a human being? Well, that's very complicated and it's very time consuming, expensive, and the and and getting those proteins to where they need to be is a massive challenge too. But why not just inject an mRNA molecule that makes the protein for you? And in
And
the
is
COVID vaccine case, that's what it does. It makes the antigen for you in your arms. The arms make it.
when you invest in a company like Tesla, you're like, well, I can see how cars are made. Like I see live video of the factory. I know the raw materials come in, the robots and the whole thing, and then I drive the car. Like I get it. But when you watch or you try to understand stuff that you're talking about visually, it's always an animation because you can't see at that level. So you guys have some really cool, helpful animations on your website. But then you got these anti-vaxxers out there and like, well, that's just a cartoon. I don't believe that. And so I want to know in layman's terms and like, how do the actual proteins get made? Like if it's that small, how do you ensure that the molecules are lining up in the right way? Like what is the manufacturing process for an RNA molecule?
Yeah, you don't have to. The body is amazing. Your whole body right now is filled with RNA. That's how your proteins are made every day. So every cell right now it has messenger RNA in it, and it's making proteins. Every single one of the cells in your body. So you're chock full of messenger RNA. You're doing it constantly. So all we do is just add a messenger RNA into the cell, and the cell knows exactly what to do with it.
But
It
how do
brings over.
you guys get the right mRNA to put into your lipid first before your
Uh,
delivery system?
well, there's very little innovation there. It's actually quite simple. If you know what you're making, the protein, it's well understood what RNA needs to make it. So there's no innovation per se in the specific design of the messenger RNA. The message is well known. You have the DNA that's known, the message that's known, and the proteins that's known. DNA gets converted to RNA, and that gets converted to protein. So whether you have the DNA as a template or the protein as a template, the RNA is perfect. It knows exactly what to make. There's no
Right.
creativity there. Now you can modify the mRNA so that it lasts longer, or you can modify it in a way to reduce certain undesirable responses in certain tissues. But the message itself is pure. It's simple. Uh,
So
all, it's there's
here's where
no very simple.
here's where I'm going to be a total dunce comedian that really is refusing to get it because I still don't get it.
Yeah.
So like I imagine two factories. It's like one is making the lipid stuff that's going to be the delivery system, and one is like a series of vats or whatever tubes somewhere that is like I don't know, culturing all this mRNA. Like
Yeah.
how does it get cultured? Like what does
Sure.
that factory look like? Like
Yeah. It's a picture. I'm trying to think of how large it's not an extremely large vessel, but you make RNA from DNA. So DNA plasmids are available, or DNA. You source this DNA, and then you put it into a system that converts the DNA into RNA, and then you have a pure. The key manufacturing innovation is purifying the messenger RNA out of the gamish,
okay.
right? So
So
you
is
have
that
this.
like a company like Twist sort of delivers the DNA in its correct form, or I'm just guessing.
Right. There's multiple sources for DNA as a starting point, but that's again well understood. And
Okay.
then there's a
Not by
simple
me.
okay, well there's a simple process to convert the DNA into mRNA or RNA, and then you purify the messenger RNA out. And we
And so
have a
through like chemistry and sort of like a series of tubes.
right, like you just kind of run let's say there's a mixture of molecules and you run it through a column of yeah, how would you describe it? A column of sand, okay? And each of the molecules moves differently through the column of sand. So as the molecule and so you just isolate and then the
Ah.
bottom and then the fluid with the messenger RNA, that's the stuff you want. You don't want the DNA, the starting material. You want to throw that out or use it, or and then
Okay.
the other impurities are removed, and then you have this highly pure messenger RNA, and then what you take that material and you formulate it into the lipid nanoparticles. Now that's a very sophisticated, highly complicated process.
Got
That's
it.
that you need a graphic, you need a visual, a cartoon,
Yeah.
a visual to understand how it comes together. But we've spent a lot of money, hundreds of millions of dollars, many years, coming up with a very sophisticated formulation process to incorporate this. But people understand what shoelaces are. Now, I want you to take a shoelace out, this very long, single-stranded messenger RNA molecule, and then wrap it up kind of like into a ball of yarn, and then formulate it into a sphere of lipids. Now, people that don't know what lipids are, look at butter. Butter is
Right.
just a block of lipids.
Yeah.
So it's very safe. It's very greasy,
Yeah.
um, and
It
it's just like
forms little bubbles when it when you have
a
it in hot water. Like yeah.
buttery coating. Yeah,
Yeah.
so a buttery coating of butter. And what that butter does, this lipids, these natural oils and lipids, protect the RNA from the blood. Because if the blood sees the RNA, it's going to destroy it in seconds. That's what it does. It just sees things and breaks it down.
Yeah.
So the butter, this lipid nanoparticle, protects the RNA to allow it to go to these hepatocytes or whatever the cell and tissue you're targeting, and then it gets into the cell. It's trapped in this endosome, so you've got to engineer it to break out of the endosome, and there's some sophisticated design and engineering elements there. But then the payload is delivered. The RNA gets into the cytosol, which is the central component of the cell, and then nature takes over that, and we don't have to do anything else. The body takes care of the rest.
Okay. So let me just put this in my own words, make sure I got it.
Yeah,
So there's companies like Twist or whoever makes the DNA. That process is understood. I'll
yeah.
ask them about that. You guys get it. There's a series of chemistry
One step. Yeah,
sets.
but
Okay.
converting the DNA to RNA. One step.
Okay.
It's simple.
some the sand column thing that separates it out. Then
It's
you've
the
got what
purification
you need.
process. Yep.
Okay. And then you get it into what you guys have created, which are the lipid delivery systems. And that's what goes into the body to get it to the right place. And when the RNA gets to the right place in the cell, it can communicate. And that now we're talking like software, medicine as software.
Medicine and software, right? So it goes in there and makes whatever you want. But delivering, again, delivering the RNA safely and effectively, that's the key.
Okay.
Often people are so focused on what's called the API, or the active pharmaceutical ingredient, which is the mRNA molecule. They're so tantalized and excited about that molecule, but the key is getting that molecule safely and effectively to where it needs to be, and then let nature take its course, and
Right.
everything else.
And you guys said there's like 200 some plus different
Cells.
cells, and you
Yeah.
guys. So there seems like there's a
Good.
lot of room for
A lot of
growth.
information. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like right now, there's five publicly traded messenger RNA companies. I think in the future, just multiply that over and over and over again. I
Wow.
think there's going to be many, many messenger RNA companies in the future that specialize in certain cell types. Because once you get into a cell type, it's a platform technology.
Right.
We have three franchises. We've got a liver franchise, a lung franchise, and a vaccine franchise. If our flagship assets of each of those franchises works, we have so many drugs that we could just keep the same delivery technology. All you do is tweak the mRNA molecule to make whatever it makes. It's the same technology, and just turn the crank, and you have product. It's a true
Right.
company.
That is that definitely. I have a question about that. So when you change the interior, so it's the same delivery system, and you've got a COVID vaccine, but then you change out the molecule. Do you have to go through the same trial length of phases? Does it
Good
take as
question.
long for each new mRNA, even though the lipid's the same?
Well, that's being tested right now as we speak. That concept, it should be way more efficient. So you don't have to start in phase one again and go through phase two, phase three. You don't have to go through this lengthy regulatory administrative process, because you've already proven out the process, that the delivery technology, the mRNA in general, the manufacturing processes, they're all worked out. All you have to do is just change the payload to
Yeah.
make it protein. So there will be some regulatory um, check boxes that you'll have to check, but it won't be the same length. And right now, what's happening with the COVID-19 vaccines is that you have these flagship mRNA vaccines, like the Moderna and Pfizer, that are doing very well. And then you have all these variants, the Indian variant, the South African variant, the California variant, all these different mutations. So they need to tweak the payload, change the mRNA molecule, but everything else stays the same. So
Okay.
the mRNA companies like Arcturus and our vaccine, we believe that you don't have to go through phase one, two, and three all over again. You might have to do what's called a small bridging study, but
Ah,
it'll be quick, and then we can immediately commercialize it.
that's
Uh,
cool.
and so for vaccines, that's very important. For the flu shot, for example, that's a highly mutating virus, and there's a whole
Yeah.
new flu every year. There's a bunch more flu versions. So you got to get those sequences and convert it into mRNA and update your product right away without doing the extensive phase one, phase two stuff. And that's why RNA is exciting for vaccines, because the clock speed, it's called, is very rapid. You
Okay.
can you can update the technology very quickly.
I guess that's what happened with like what happens with the flu shot every year. It is a different flu shot every year, but they don't have to. They don't go through the whole trial every year because it's the same technology
Same technology, however, the clock speed of that technology is slow. So some
compared to
years,
mRNA. Right.
yeah, so some years, by the time the flu shot gets marketed and manufactured and marketed, the flu's already mutated. And
Uh-huh.
so it's 20% effective some years.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's 40%, 50%. So if you could get ahead of it and reduce that clock speed from 6 months to 6 weeks, Now you're going to have a much more effective flu vaccine that's readily updatable on an annual basis.
Okay. So we've only got a few more minutes left, so I want to get to some things. I want to talk about why your company is different than Pfizer and Moderna's tech, and then I want to ask you a couple of just sort of speculative future questions.
Sure. So two
Yeah.
key differences from Arcturus and the other mRNA companies. We're using a next generation mRNA technology for vaccine applications called self-amplifying mRNA. So the other mRNA vaccine companies are either two-shot vaccines or their dose levels very high at 30 micrograms or 100 micrograms. So the dose level for the Arcturus mRNA vaccine is only 5 micrograms, and it's only a single shot or a single administration. The reason that is because we utilize self-amplifying mRNA. And this type of mRNA allows us to make the protein of interest, but it makes the protein of interest for 2 to 3 weeks instead of 2 to 3 days.
Why don't
So
they use that? And how did you come up with this? And
this,
yeah.
yeah, this is a next generation technology. So some people view us as a fast following mRNA vaccine company, but in reality, we're a first moving, self amplifying mRNA vaccine. There's many other high quality pharmaceutical companies that have self amplifying mRNA technology, but we're first movers in this space. So people are watching to see if this actually works. If it does, everyone's going to prefer a single shot vaccine. Everyone prefers
Yeah.
a much lower dose level. If you're injecting less stuff, less RNA, less lipids, there's less side effects and less discomfort
Yeah.
associated at the site of injection. So there's a lot of benefits to this, and we're the only lyophilized mRNA vaccine. And lyophilized means the water's been removed. So all the other mRNA vaccines did a phase 3 clinical trial on a frozen liquid. Our phase 3 clinical trial is going to be conducted with a lyophilized version where the water's been removed.
Does that
And
make
then,
it last longer?
the supply chain issues, and you don't need extraordinary freezers or dry ice handling at the point of administration.
So this is
Uh,
next gen technology compared to Moderna. So this is when people go, oh well, this is this one's out there. You want that one or whatever. When they
right.
think because some people are like, well, they didn't come out with their technology yet. Maybe it's not as good, but that makes way more sense that it's just more advanced.
It's just a newer generation technology, and we're the only mRNA vaccine company that's using the lunar delivery technology. That lipid nanoparticle is ours, and we've licensed it to J&J, the number one pharmaceutical company in the world, to go after the number one disease in the world, hepatitis B. So we've licensed this delivery technology. Of course, I'm biased. I believe it's the best in the world. But we're the only ones that have access to that technology. It's biodegradable. It has some unique advantages to it. But combining our delivery technology, lunar, with the self-amplifying mRNA, those are the two key technological differences with
Okay.
our, and that's where we are different.
I have here's some fun questions before we go. Would Arcturus ever put its cash in Bitcoin?
That's a fun question. My cryptocurrency has definitely been a lot in the news. I Because of the lack of familiarity with that currency, it's unlikely that we'll participate in that. But ask me again in a year from now, because it's definitely a hot topic. Everyone's getting
Right.
familiar with it. I
Right.
know. I'm trying my best to get up to speed with that.
Nice. How long do you think before, like a timeline, if you could guess, before mRNA medicines move beyond just healing disease and into like human optimization? Like when will it be capable and when do you think people will be ready for that?
Well, the people will be ready for it if it's available.
If it works. Yeah.
Like right now, um, for example, people are injecting Botox or
Right.
toxin into their face, right,
Yeah. Yeah.
in order to address wrinkles.
Yeah.
Again, that's an example of knocking a pathway down, right? Where imagine if you had a messenger RNA molecule that you could put into your face that makes healthy collagen. Your
Yes.
collagen,
Yeah.
the exact same collagen you made when you were 18
Yeah.
is stuff that you'd be making when you're 68 or whatever.
So is
And
that 5 years, 10 years,
I
20?
think that's a 5 to 10 year horizon.
Ooh, all
But
right.
in the near term, I think it's addressing serious unmet medical disease where somebody's missing a protein or it's dysfunctional, and we need to address those concerns first, and then we'll start to improve upon what we already have.
Would it work to get people jazzed up about like solving aging? Like, hey, we're going to cure aging, but like first we have to, cure all these diseases.
Extremely exciting field of aging because there's people that genetically live longer than others, period. Doesn't matter what they do, and they frustrate others, right? There's the
Yeah.
marathon runner that keels over with a heart attack versus someone that eats like a pig and they live to their 120. Genetically, we're understanding those differences, and there's very few genetic markers that can prolong life. And if we could imagine administering a messenger RNA that simply replaces what's missing in those that are genetically going to pass away at a younger age,
Yeah.
we could match those genetic markers of those that live to 140, right?
Yeah.
And that could be, there's other Arcturus is not pursuing that right now, but there's other companies that are seriously considering looking at genetic medicines to extend life, and that's another exciting area.
That is exciting. Do you have time for one more?
Yeah, one more question, and then I need to jump, but go ahead.
Awesome. Okay. So, I like this idea of a Cambrian explosion. So I know mRNA doesn't necessarily change DNA. I've read that or I've seen that in the news, but
Yeah.
but is it possible to in the future have it like really design even like a new type of human? Could there be a Cambrian explosion of different types of humans?
Yeah, so mRNA is not going to be the field to do that, but there is DNA technologies and certain
Like
technologies
CRISPR.
that upgrade your DNA. The messenger are, yeah, you got it. Like well, CRISPR technology is enabled through RNA. The RNA goes into a cell, and instead of making a protein, it makes a pair of scissors that cuts the DNA. So that's still RNA mediated. But there's other gene therapies that would probably be a separate podcast to talk
Okay.
about how there's some exciting DNA-based therapeutics and gene therapeutics that are addressing what you're talking about more closely.
Okay.
But that's for a separate podcast, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Joe, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. This was super interesting. I have a much firmer grasp of like the actual, I can visualize how this stuff is made. And I think that helps me and hopefully the people that watch think like, yeah, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
This is real. Like, yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Emmett. It's definitely an exciting few years for the field and for Arcturus, and we're excited to be part of this revolution of the pharmaceutical industry, no doubt.
Yeah, I'm going to be watching you guys. It's exciting. A lot of room for growth with all those cell types.
Yes, thanks, Emmett.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.